Imagine a servant sitting before the King of Kings, not bound by formality, not worried about eloquence, but simply speaking from the heart. He whispers, he cries, he shares his fears, his hopes, his secrets. This is due. And Allah, the most merciful, listens to every word, every sigh, even the unspoken thoughts in your heart. My brothers and sisters, one of the greatest gifts Allah has given us is the ability to communicate, to express what we feel inside. But let me ask you a question. When you pray, do you truly feel connected? Or do you sometimes repeat words without understanding them, almost like a routine? If that happens to you, you are not alone. Many of us have grown up reciting words in Arabic, which is a blessed language, no doubt. It is the language of revelation. But here is the question. What if you do not understand those words deeply? Will your prayer still touch your soul? You see, prayer is not a performance. It is a connection. It is a bridge between you and your Creator. And that bridge must be strong. The structure of Salah is fixed for a reason, because unity in worship matters. But when it comes to do personal supplication, you have the freedom to speak in the language of your heart. Why? Because what matters most is not the sound of your words, but the state of your heart. When you speak in your own language, something profound happens. Psychologically, you bypass the barrier of translation. You are not struggling to recall phrases. You are not thinking, am I saying it correctly? Instead, your conscious mind and your unconscious align. Every emotion flows freely because there is no filter. And that, my brothers and sisters, is powerful. It brings healing, clarity, and inner peace. It transforms dua from a mechanical act into a living experience. The Prophet Muhammad taught us this without restricting us to one style. He encouraged dua from the heart. He said, ask Allah for everything, even the strap of your sandal. That means nothing is too small, nothing is too personal. And how will you ask for the most personal matters if you are bound by words you barely understand? This is why speaking in your own language opens a door to intimacy with Allah. Let me share something profound. When you understand what you are saying, your soul participates in the prayer. Words are not empty, they carry weight. They create meaning. And meaning creates transformation. Many people feel disconnected from prayer because they have learned to repeat without reflection. That repetition without understanding slowly turns into ritual without spirit. And ritual without spirit is like a body without a soul. So here is what I encourage you to do. Continue learning the meanings of the Arabic phrases in Salah, because that is important. But when you sit for dua, when you pour out your heart after prayer, speak to Allah in the language that speaks to you. Tell Him your struggles, your dreams, your mistakes, your regrets. Cry if you must. Whisper if you want. There is no fixed formula. The door is wide open. Because Allah does not need fancy words, He needs sincerity. And sincerity has no language barrier. Some of us think that if we don't use Arabic, our dua won't be accepted. That is not true. The scholars have clarified this repeatedly. Dua in any language is valid, accepted, and beloved to Allah. Why? Because dua is about essence, not form. It is about truth, not show. It is about your soul reaching out to the divine. Prayer is one of the most profound acts of worship a believer engages in. Yet many people experience a deep sense of disconnection when performing it. The reason often lies in the lack of understanding of what is being said. For many, prayer becomes a routine, a set of words memorized long ago, recited without engaging the mind or the heart. While the physical act of prayer remains important, its true essence lies beyond mechanical repetition. The real question we should ask ourselves is, does my prayer make me feel closer to Allah? Does it truly bring me peace, hope, and strength? If the answer is no, then we must explore why that is happening. One of the biggest factors is language. When you speak in a language you do not fully understand, your mind cannot grasp the full meaning of what you are saying. You may be uttering beautiful words in Arabic, the language of revelation, which indeed carries immense blessings. But if your heart does not comprehend, if your soul cannot resonate with those words, the depth of connection is lost. Prayer is meant to be a conversation with Allah, not a performance. It is a sacred dialogue between the servant and the Creator, one that should feel intimate, personal, and full of meaning. When we limit that dialogue to a language that our mind does not fully process, we unintentionally create a barrier between our emotions and our words. Now, imagine for a moment sitting with someone you trust deeply and trying to share your feelings in a language you barely know. You would hesitate. You would struggle to find the right words. Your message would not flow. The same thing happens when we make dua in a language we are not comfortable with. It feels restricted, rigid, and distant. But when you speak in your own language, your thoughts and emotions flow naturally. You do not pause to translate. You do not worry about whether the wording is correct. You speak from your heart. You say exactly what you feel. That sincerity is what makes dua powerful. It transforms a mere act into a deeply moving experience. Psychologically, language plays a significant role in emotional expression. When you use words you understand completely, your subconscious and conscious mind work together. There is no conflict between what you say and what you mean. Your heart aligns with your tongue, and that unity creates inner peace. This is why speaking to Allah in your own language is not only permissible but also spiritually uplifting. It removes mental blocks and allows you to connect at a deeper level. You are no longer a person reciting memorized lines, you become a soul expressing its true state before its Lord. Some people hesitate, thinking that if they do not use Arabic, their prayer or dua will not be accepted. This is a misconception. The scholars have clarified that while the formal prayer Salah has fixed Arabic words for unity and preservation of the original message, personal supplication does not have this restriction. You can ask Allah for your needs in any language because what matters is the sincerity of the heart, not the sophistication of the language. Dua is about your connection with Allah, and Allah understands all languages because He is the creator of all languages. There is no barrier between you and Him. When you raise your hands after prayer or before sleeping at night, speak to Him in the language that feels closest to your heart. Pour out your fears, your hopes, your dreams, your secrets. Cry if you need to. Whisper if you want to. Nothing is too small, too ordinary, or too personal for Allah. He listens to every word, even the words you cannot say out loud. Understanding what you say in prayer also strengthens your faith. When you comprehend the meanings of the phrases in Salah, your experience changes completely. Instead of mechanical recitation, you start feeling the weight of every word. You no longer rush through your prayer, you savor it. You taste its sweetness because now your mind and heart are engaged. But until you reach that point of fluency, supplement your prayers with dua in your language. This way you maintain the spirit of prayer without letting it become an empty ritual. Speaking to Allah in your own language also deepens self-awareness. When you talk freely, you discover feelings you did not even know existed. You become more honest with yourself. You admit your mistakes, your weaknesses, your desires. This honesty is the essence of humility before Allah, and humility is the key to acceptance. When you approach Allah with a heart that is truthful and words that carry meaning, your connection becomes real. You begin to feel that Allah is near, that He is listening, that He understands you completely. And that feeling brings comfort no human can give. So, the next time you raise your hands in dua, do not hold back. Speak to Allah as you would speak to your closest companion, because He is closer to you than anyone else. Tell Him what scares you. Tell Him what you dream of. Tell Him what you regret. Thank Him for what you have. Ask Him for what you need. Do not worry about formality or structure. Let your words flow naturally. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how beautiful your words sound, it is about how sincere your heart is. And sincerity knows no language barrier. When the heart speaks, Allah listens. The language we use in prayer is a means to an end, not the end itself. It is the bridge that carries our thoughts, emotions, and desires to Allah. But sometimes we confuse the bridge for the destination. We become so focused on the language, the structure, and the formality that we forget the essence. A sincere conversation with the one who created us, sustains us, and loves us more than anyone else. When we understand that language is simply a tool, it frees us from unnecessary constraints and allows us to focus on what truly matters. Connection. When you pray, what is your real intention? Is it to impress others with eloquent words? Is it to sound poetic? Or is it to bare your soul before Allah and ask Him for what you need with humility and sincerity? Of course, it is the last one. But many of us unknowingly fall into the trap of making language a barrier rather than a facilitator. We think, if I don't say this in Arabic, it won't count. Or, if my words are not beautiful, Allah won't accept them. These are misconceptions. Allah is not looking for perfect grammar or polished speech. He is looking for a heart that turns to Him fully, without distraction, without pride, and without hesitation. Think of a child who wants something from their parent. Do they prepare a speech? Do they worry about the exact words? No, they simply speak from the heart. Sometimes their words don't even make sense, but the parent understands the feeling behind them. If a parent can understand and respond to sincerity over structure, what about Allah, the one who knows the secrets of the hearts? He does not need your language, He needs your devotion. He does not measure your prayer by how sophisticated your words are. He measures it by how much your heart leans on Him. There is immense beauty in the Arabic language. It is the language of the Quran, and learning its meanings is a noble effort. But that does not mean you cannot speak to Allah in your own tongue. In fact, when you use the language you know best, you express yourself fully. You are not limited. You are not searching for words. You are not pausing to translate. Everything flows from your heart naturally. And that flow is what makes your dua powerful and authentic. There is no pretense, no performance, just you and your Lord in a moment of pure intimacy. When you choose to speak in your own language, you are acknowledging that what matters most is sincerity, not sound. This perspective removes anxiety from prayer. Many people hesitate to make dua because they fear they will say it wrong. They worry about pronunciation, about forgetting certain phrases. That fear is unnecessary and harmful because it keeps you from turning to Allah as often as you should. Remember, do is not about impressing anyone, not even yourself. It is about emptying your heart to Allah, who already knows what is inside but loves to hear it from you. Psychologically, speaking in your own language helps you connect at a deeper level because you are engaging your whole self. There is no mental burden of translation. There is no cognitive split between thinking in one language and speaking in another. Your heart, mind, and tongue are aligned. This alignment creates clarity and focus. You are fully present in the conversation with Allah, and being present is what allows prayer to heal, soothe, and strengthen you. When you talk to Allah in your language, you feel understood, and feeling understood is one of the most comforting experiences a human being can have. We must also remember that language was never meant to be a barrier between us and Allah. He understands every word, every sound, every whisper, and even the silence of your thoughts. If you cannot put something into words, He still knows it. But when you can and you choose to do so in the language that carries your deepest emotions, you experience relief, release, and renewal. That moment becomes sacred because it is real. You are not acting, you are not performing. You are being your truest self before the one who already knows you better than you know yourself. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine someone struggling with anxiety. They need help from Allah, but they only know a few Arabic phrases. If they restrict themselves to those phrases alone, they may not express the depth of their struggle. But if they say in their own language, "Oh Allah, I am afraid. I don't know what to do. Please give me strength," they feel a sense of connection and comfort that is immediate. That simple, heartfelt plea in their own words is more powerful than a beautifully recited phrase that the heart does not understand. Why? Because it is honest, raw, and real. The purpose of do is to break the barriers between you and your Creator, not to create new ones. Language should serve you, not control you. It is a tool, not a test, so use it wisely. Use the one that helps you speak your truth. Use the one that makes you feel closest to Allah. And as you do, you will notice a change in your spiritual life. Prayer will no longer feel like a duty. It will feel like a refuge. It will become your safe space, your therapy, your comfort. And that is exactly what it is meant to be. Because Allah does not need the perfection of your words. He wants the perfection of your sincerity. And sincerity, my brothers and sisters, has no language barrier. When we talk about praying in our own language, there is something much deeper than just words. It touches the very fabric of the human psyche. Language is not merely a collection of sounds and letters. It is a vessel for our thoughts, emotions, and subconscious desires. Every word we utter carries layers of meaning that shape how we experience the world. When you pray in a language you fully understand, you engage your entire being, your conscious mind, your emotions, and even the depths of your subconscious. That is why the experience of making do in your own tongue feels so different. It is raw, it is honest, and it is deeply personal. Many people underestimate the power of language in shaping their spiritual experience. They think as long as the words are recited correctly, the job is done. But prayer is not a mechanical act. It is a psychological and spiritual dialogue. When you use words that you understand deeply, your mind does not need to struggle with translation. There is no delay between thought and expression. This smooth flow allows you to remain present in the moment. You are not distracted by wondering if you pronounce something correctly or whether you are remembering the right phrase. Instead, your entire focus is on the meaning and the connection. That focus is what brings inner calm and clarity. From a psychological perspective, when you pray in a language that is foreign to you, your brain splits its energy. One part is trying to recall the correct phrase, another is trying to pronounce it properly, and a third is attempting to connect emotionally with the meaning. This mental juggling dilutes the intensity of the experience. On the other hand, when you pray in your native language, there is unity of thought and speech. Your heart and your tongue work together effortlessly. This alignment allows your emotions to surface freely without being blocked by linguistic limitations. You feel what you say, and you say what you feel. That emotional congruence is essential for sincerity, and sincerity is the soul of prayer. Think about the last time you felt truly understood by someone. It probably wasn't because they just heard your words. It was because they understood the emotions behind them. That sense of being heard is what brings comfort to the human heart. Now imagine this in the context of do. When you pour out your heart in your own language, you are not holding back. You are not censoring yourself. You are not searching for words. You are expressing your fears, regrets, and dreams with complete honesty. And when you do that, you feel lighter because expressing yourself fully is a form of release. It is a healing process. It is therapeutic. That is why do in your language can sometimes feel like a weight has been lifted from your chest. The human mind is wired to attach emotions to familiar words. For example, when you say forgive me in your own language, it carries a lifetime of emotional experiences, memories, and meanings. Those words trigger feelings that are deeply embedded in your psyche. But when you say the same phrase in a language you barely know, the emotional intensity is often missing. It becomes a sound rather than a heartfelt plea. This is why many people feel a disconnect when making dua in a language they do not understand fully. Their tongue is moving, but their heart is silent, and a silent heart cannot create a powerful spiritual connection. Now, some people fear that praying in their own language is less virtuous. That is not true. When you pray in your language outside the fixed structure of salah, you are embracing the very essence of dua, which is an intimate, personal conversation with Allah. This is not about abandoning Arabic, it is about embracing sincerity. You can learn and use Arabic phrases as well, but when your soul is in need, do not restrict it. Let it speak freely in the language it knows best. Because when the heart speaks, the mind listens, and that unity creates a profound spiritual experience. Another important psychological element is vulnerability. True connection with Allah requires vulnerability, admitting your weaknesses, your flaws, and your needs. Vulnerability is not easy in any relationship, and it is even harder when you feel you cannot express yourself fully. Speaking in your own language removes that barrier. You can say things you might not be able to articulate in a foreign tongue. You can express your innermost thoughts without fear of making mistakes. That honesty is what makes dua transformative. It is not about how beautifully you speak, it is about how truthfully you speak. And truthfulness requires familiarity and comfort, which your native language provides. So, my brothers and sisters, remember this: the purpose of prayer is not to impress, it is to connect. It is not about perfect words, it is about a perfect heart. When you pray in your own language, you are creating a direct line from your heart to your Lord without interference. That alignment between thought, emotion, and expression is what makes dua deeply therapeutic. It cleanses your mind, soothes your heart, and strengthens your faith. When you understand what you say, your words carry weight. They resonate within you and rise to the heavens with sincerity. And that sincerity is what makes your prayer powerful. So do not hesitate to speak to Allah in the language that speaks to you. Do not let linguistic barriers silence your heart. Pour out your soul, share your secrets, your hopes, your fears, because Allah listens to every language, every word, and every sigh, even those that never leave your lips. And when you experience that kind of connection, you will realize that dua is not just an act of worship, it is a journey of self-discovery and healing. The beauty of Islam is that it is a religion of ease, sincerity, and practicality. When we speak about making dua, many people assume that it must follow a certain structure or that it must be in Arabic to be accepted. But this is not the case. The Prophet Muhammad himself encouraged believers to speak to Allah in their own words, in their own way. He taught us that dua is an intimate, personal conversation between a servant and his Lord. There is no formality, no restriction, and no requirement that it be done in a specific language outside of the prescribed salah. This teaching removes so much pressure and opens the door to a genuine connection with Allah. The Prophet would often emphasize that when you ask Allah, ask Him for everything, big or small. He gave examples so simple, like even asking for the strap of your sandal. Now think about that for a moment. If you are asking for something as minor as a sandal strap, are you expected to recite a long Arabic phrase for it? Not at all. You simply say what is in your heart in a way that comes naturally to you. This is what the Prophet wanted to teach us. Dua is not about formality, it is about sincerity. Allah loves to hear your voice, your words, your thoughts, and your feelings exactly as they are. The companions of the Prophet understood this very well. They would ask questions openly, and they would pray in the languages they spoke. There was no barrier between them and Allah. They knew that what mattered most was the state of the heart. This is why the Prophet said that Allah does not look at your appearance or your wealth, but He looks at your hearts and your deeds. If Allah values the heart, then surely the most valuable dua is the one that comes from deep within it. And for many people, that means speaking in the language they understand best. Some people feel guilty when they make dua in their native language, thinking that it might be less virtuous than Arabic. But the scholars have clarified that personal supplication outside of the structured salah can be done in any language. In fact, it is often more impactful when you speak in your own tongue because your emotions and meanings are clear. You are not struggling to remember a phrase or pronounce something correctly. You are not distracted by the fear of making mistakes. Instead, your heart is free to pour itself out before Allah. And that freedom is what makes your dua strong and meaningful. Imagine if a person who knows very little Arabic is going through a deep crisis. Perhaps they are grieving or they are overwhelmed by hardship. They desperately want to speak to Allah, but all they know are a few memorized phrases. If they restrict themselves to those phrases, they might feel distant and disconnected because those words, while beautiful, do not express the full weight of their emotions. But if they speak in their own language, they can release everything inside them: the pain, the fear, the hopes, and the dreams. This release is what brings healing, and the Prophet wanted that healing for us. He wanted dua to be a source of comfort, not stress. That is why he encouraged personal, heartfelt supplication. This prophetic teaching also helps us understand the mercy and flexibility of our faith. Islam is not a religion of rigidity, it is a religion of balance and accessibility. The Prophet always sought to make things easier for people, not harder. He taught us that Allah is closer to us than we can imagine, and He listens to every word, even the words that never leave our lips. So why should language ever become a barrier? Why should someone feel they cannot speak to Allah because they do not know Arabic well? The answer is simple: they should never feel that way. The door of do is wide open for everyone, no matter what language they speak. When you make do in your language, you are following the essence of the Prophet's guidance. You are doing exactly what he encouraged, turning to Allah with sincerity, humility, and honesty. You are not worried about style or eloquence. You are not concerned about what others will think. It is just you and Allah in a private, sacred moment of communication. And in that moment, you are living the sunnah of heartfelt connection. There is also a practical wisdom behind this prophetic encouragement. If do were restricted to Arabic only, millions of Muslims who do not speak the language would feel distant from their Lord. They would hesitate to ask for what they need, and this would create unnecessary barriers in their relationship with Allah. But Islam came to remove barriers, not create them. The Prophet said that the best do is the one made with sincerity. He did not say the best do is the one with the most eloquent words. This means that a simple prayer in your own language, spoken with a trembling heart, can outweigh the most poetic phrases recited without feeling. So, my brothers and sisters, do not hesitate to speak to Allah in your own language. Do not hold back your thoughts because you think they are not formal enough. Allah does not need formality. He wants honesty. He wants you to turn to Him with the same vulnerability you would show no one else. Speak to Him as you are, in the language your soul understands best. This is what the Prophet taught us, not by restricting us, but by freeing us to be real in our worship. When you understand this, do becomes a source of comfort rather than pressure. It becomes your safe space, your moment of healing, your therapy session with the one who never judges and always listens. And that is exactly what the Prophet wanted for you: to find peace in prayer, to feel close to Allah, and to know that you are heard no matter what words you use. Because in the end, Allah is not counting your syllables. He is looking at your sincerity. And sincerity, my brothers and sisters, is the language of the heart. When we look at prayer in Islam, we see two beautiful dimensions. One is the ritual, the structured form of worship that unites all Muslims around the world. This is the Salah with its prescribed words and actions in Arabic. The other dimension is the personal, intimate side of prayer, which is do. This is where you speak to Allah with no fixed wording, no rigid structure, and no limitation on language. Both dimensions are important because one preserves the unity of faith and the other nurtures the individuality of the believer. But the problem arises when we confuse the two or when we fail to understand the wisdom behind them. That is why it is essential to bridge ritual and reality, to ensure that our acts of worship are not hollow forms, but living experiences that connect us to Allah in the deepest way. The ritual aspect of prayer is not meant to be a burden, it is a blessing. When you perform Salah in Arabic, you are participating in a global act of unity. Whether you are in Africa, Asia, Europe, or America, the words of the Quran remain the same. This uniformity is a sign of the strength and consistency of our faith. But beyond the unity, there is another layer. Those Arabic words have meanings, profound meanings that we are supposed to understand and internalize. If we do not make an effort to understand them, Salah risks becoming mechanical. It turns into a routine without reflection. That is where the reality part comes in. Your heart and mind must be present. You must connect to what you are saying so that your Salah transforms you spiritually. But even as you strive to understand the language of Salah, you should not ignore the second dimension of prayer, the personal, intimate conversation with Allah. This is do, and this is where you can express yourself freely without restriction. This is where reality takes center stage. If your life is filled with struggle, stress, or sorrow, do not think that your relationship with Allah should be formal and distant. No, this is the time to bring your reality into your prayer. Tell Allah everything. Speak to Him in the language you know best, because what matters here is not linguistic perfection, but emotional authenticity. He is your Lord, your sustainer, your closest companion. Speak to Him as you truly are. Too many people live with a gap between their rituals and their reality. They pray 5 times a day, but they do not feel the comfort of prayer. They make do, but it feels repetitive and empty. Why? Because the ritual has stayed, but the heart has not engaged. The outer form is there, but the inner meaning is missing. And without that meaning, worship becomes like a shell without its soul. Bridging that gap means making your prayer alive, making it real, making it something that changes you, strengthens you, and heals you. This does not happen by abandoning rituals, but by filling them with understanding, and by allowing do to become your personal channel of honesty with Allah. Think of the Salah as a framework, a sacred structure that keeps you disciplined and connected to the community of believers. But think of Du as the space where you pour out your individuality, where you take off the masks and speak from the depths of your soul. That combination creates balance. Without ritual, worship becomes chaotic and unstructured. Without reality, worship becomes dry and lifeless. Islam gives us both because we need both discipline to guide us and sincerity to nourish us. Now, what does this look like in practice? After you finish Salah, sit for a moment. Do not rush away. Raise your hands and speak to Allah in your language. Say, "Oh Allah, I am tired. Oh Allah, I am scared. Oh Allah, I need strength. Help me." These simple words, spoken with a trembling heart, are more beloved to Allah than pages of eloquence without sincerity. Do not underestimate the power of these moments. They turn prayer from a duty into a lifeline. They transform rituals into experiences that heal your heart and mind. Another important point is that Du is not limited to times of difficulty. It is not only when you are desperate or broken. It is also for gratitude, for reflection, for dreams, and for hope. When something good happens, thank Allah in your own language. When you have an ambition, share it with Him. When you are confused, ask Him for clarity. This habit of speaking to Allah in a real, unfiltered way bridges the gap between ritual and reality, because now your worship is not separate from your daily life. It is woven into it. You are not just a Muslim during Salah. You are a Muslim in every breath, every thought, every hope, because you have made Allah your closest companion. What is amazing about this balance is that it also changes how you see the rituals themselves. When you understand what you are saying in Salah, when you make Du with sincerity, you begin to love prayer. You no longer see it as an obligation to tick off your list, you see it as a refuge. You look forward to it because it feels like home for your soul. This is the transformation that comes when rituals are filled with reality. They stop being empty actions and become profound moments of connection. So, my brothers and sisters, remember this. Islam does not separate the outer and the inner. It brings them together. Salah is the body, sincerity is the soul. Arabic words preserve the message, your own language gives voice to your heart. Both are important and both complement each other. So hold on to the rituals, they are the anchors of your faith. But do not neglect the reality. The personal, heartfelt conversation that makes worship come alive. Speak to Allah as you are. Cry if you need to. Laugh if you want to. Whisper your secrets and dreams. And as you do, you will realize that true prayer is not just about moving your lips, it is about moving your heart. And when the heart moves toward Allah, life changes in ways you could never imagine. When we speak about prayer, many people think of it as something fixed, formal, and structured. And yes, there is a beautiful structure to the prescribed prayers in Islam. They are acts of worship given to us with specific words and actions. But beyond those moments, there is an ocean of mercy and closeness available to every believer through personal conversation with Allah. This is where many miss out because they assume that connecting with Allah only happens through Arabic words they may not fully understand. The truth is, Allah understands every language, every word, even every silent cry from your heart. He knows your inner thoughts better than you do. So why then do we limit ourselves when we feel the need to speak to Him? Praying in your own language is not a sign of weakness or lack of faith. It is, in fact, a reflection of your sincerity. When you stand before Allah in a quiet moment and you express what's troubling you, what you need help with, what you are thankful for in your own language, it becomes deeply personal. It is no longer a formality, it becomes a relationship. You begin to feel that you are not speaking to a distant deity, you are speaking to your Lord, the one who fashioned you, who listens to every whisper in your soul. That moment of honest, raw connection can be transformative. It can heal wounds, ease anxieties, and strengthen your faith in ways you never imagined. Many people struggle with understanding why their prayers feel distant or mechanical. One reason is that they may repeat words without truly understanding their meaning. If you do not know what you are saying, your heart may not engage fully. Imagine talking to a loved one in a language you don't understand, just repeating phrases someone else taught you. Would that feel heartfelt? Of course not. The same applies when you only recite without reflection. This is why adding your own words in your own language can bridge that gap. You are no longer just repeating, you are speaking from the heart. You are telling Allah exactly what you feel, what you need, and what you hope for. That changes everything. When you pray in your own language, something remarkable happens. You begin to see prayer not as an obligation, but as a conversation. And conversations bring intimacy. You no longer wait for a crisis to turn to Allah. You talk to Him throughout the day. You share your fears, your dreams, even the small details of your life because you know He cares. That constant connection builds trust, it builds peace, it gives you a sense of purpose because you know you are never alone. Even in your weakest moments, you know you can speak to Allah in the exact words that reflect your soul. Another benefit of praying in your language is that it removes the barriers of formality. Sometimes People feel they need to use the most beautiful, poetic words to speak to Allah. They hesitate because they feel unworthy or not eloquent enough. But Allah does not need your eloquence. He needs your sincerity. Speak as you are. If you are happy, say it. If you are broken, admit it. If you are angry, confess it. If you are confused, tell Him. Nothing shocks Allah. Nothing you say will make Him reject you. In fact, those vulnerable moments are the ones that bring you closest to Him. And when you make a habit of this, you begin to see life differently. You start living with hope. You stop feeling empty. You stop relying on people for emotional validation because you have Allah listening to you every single day. There is a deep psychological wisdom in this practice. The human mind and heart need expression. If you bottle up emotions, they can turn into anxiety or even despair. But when you express them, especially to the one who can actually change your situation, you find relief. Prayer becomes a form of therapy for the soul. It aligns your conscious and subconscious mind with your faith. It helps you release burdens you were never meant to carry alone. And slowly you begin to see that every prayer, whether answered immediately or delayed, changes you in a positive way. It builds resilience, humility, and gratitude. So let this be a reminder, never underestimate the power of speaking to Allah in your own words. After every obligatory prayer, or in the stillness of the night, or during a walk, or before you sleep, just talk to Him. Tell Him your worries. Share your hopes. Thank Him for the blessings you often overlook. Make this a daily habit and watch how your connection with Allah deepens. Watch how your heart finds peace even when life is chaotic. Watch how faith becomes alive, not just in rituals, but in every breath you take. Your relationship with Allah is not about perfection. It is about sincerity. And sincerity shines brightest when you speak from your heart, in words you truly understand, to the one who understands you better than anyone else. So start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment or perfect words. Just talk to Him as you are, and you will discover a love, a closeness, and a peace that nothing in this world can replace.